Hello, dear friends. Welcome back to Grandma Lily English. Tonight is a little different. Instead of one of my own stories, I want to tell you about a real man, someone whose name you already know, but whose story you might not. Noah, my dear, have you ever heard of Walt Disney?
Of course, Grandma. Mickey Mouse, Disneyland, everyone knows him.
Everyone knows him now, but before the mouse, before the castle, before any of it. Walt Disney had a difficult childhood, was fired from a job for having no imagination, lost his first company completely, and then lost his own creation to someone else. Let me tell you what really happened from the very beginning. Walt Disney was born in 1901, the fourth of 5 children, raised on a small farm in Missouri. His father, Elias, was a difficult, demanding man, described as harsh toward his children, and life at home was often tense. Walt found comfort not in his home, but in drawing. As a boy, he did farm chores like milking cows before school, and in the little free time he had, he filled pages with sketches and told stories to his younger siblings.
That sounds like a hard childhood.
It was, my dear. When World War I began, 16-year-old Walt left school to join the Red Cross as an ambulance driver, driving through France, far from home, far too young for what he was seeing. When he came back, he was determined to become a real artist. But he was rejected for a position at the Kansas City Star newspaper. The editor told him he lacked imagination and had no good ideas.
Wait. They told Walt Disney he had no imagination. The most imaginative man in entertainment history.
Exactly, the man, Noah. I want you to remember that moment because we're going to come back to it. At just 20 years old, Walt started his very first company, a small animation studio in Kansas City called Laugh-O-Gram Films. He gathered a handful of young, talented animators, worked impossibly long hours, and believed completely that they were creating something the world had never seen. But at that time, distributors simply didn't see cartoons as something worth investing money in. Walt made a deal to sell a series of cartoons for a large amount of money, but he only ever received a small down payment. Before the rest was ever paid, his client declared bankruptcy, and Walt never saw the remaining money.
So all that work for almost nothing.
Almost nothing, my dear. To keep the studio alive as long as possible, Walt cut every expense he could, let staff go one by one, and skipped his own meals. He became so poor that he could barely afford proper food. He had nowhere else to live, so he slept in his own office, surrounded by drawings of a dream that was dying around him.
Grandma, what does bankrupt actually mean?
Bankrupt. B-A-N-K-R-U-P-T. It means a business or a person has no money left to pay what they owe. Legally, everything stops. The company no longer exists. By 1923, Laugh-O-Gram Films had officially gone bankrupt. Walt was 21, broke, and had just watched his very first dream collapse completely. Most people at that point would have found a safer job and quietly given up on the dream. But Walt did something different. With almost no money left, he moved to Hollywood together with his brother Roy, and the two of them started a new, small studio. This time, things began to work. They created a character called Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, and audiences genuinely loved him. For the very first time, Walt had real success, real income, a character people actually recognized on the street.
So finally, things were going well.
For a while, yes. But then, in 1928, A contract dispute with his distributor cost Walt the legal rights to Oswald entirely. The character he had built, the character audiences loved, was simply no longer his. Someone else legally owned him.
Wait, they just took it from him?
Legally, yes. Walt had signed a contract without fully understanding everything he was giving away. It was his second devastating loss. First, his company. Now, his own creation, taken from him by the very people he trusted to distribute it.
Grandma, what does distributor mean exactly?
A distributor is a company that takes something someone has made a film, a product, a cartoon, and delivers it to theaters, shops, or audiences. Walt needed distributors to get his cartoons in front of people. But depending on someone else to share your work means depending on their honesty too. And this time, that trust was broken. He didn't quit. Rather than being discouraged, Walt quickly began creating something entirely new. This time, he made absolutely sure to keep full legal ownership of whatever came next. And what came next was a small mouse, Mickey Mouse. The character that would eventually become known in almost every country on Earth was born directly out of Walt's second devastating failure. If he had never lost Oswald, Mickey Mouse might never have existed at all.
That's actually incredible. The failure literally created the success.
It did, my dear, and it wasn't the last time. Years later, when Walt announced he wanted to make a full-length animated film, something no one had ever successfully done before, people in Hollywood mocked the idea. They called it Disney's folly. They were certain it would fail completely. That film became Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, one of the most successful films of its entire era. By then, Walt had learned something most people never learn, that being doubted, being told no, being told he had no imagination at all, none of that was actually information about his future. It was only ever information about that one moment. Dear friends, notice how, throughout Walt's story, I used the past perfect tense to show one event happening before another, in the past. He had lost everything before he finally built something that lasted. He had built a successful character before he lost the rights to it. Structure had plus past participle. It shows the order of past events, what happened first and what happened only after. Walt's whole story is really a story about order. Rejection came first, loss came first, creation came after, not creation, then failure, but failure. That led eventually to creation.
So I could say, he had been told he had no imagination before he created some of the most imaginative stories in history.
Noah, that sentence is really the whole lesson, my dear. We usually meet people like Walt Disney only after they've already succeeded. We see the castle. We see the mouse. We never see the office he slept in, the meals he skipped, the editor who told him he had no good ideas, or the contract that took away something he had built with his own hands. His story isn't inspiring because he never failed. It's inspiring because failing, again and again, never once got to be the end of his story.
So it's not really about avoiding failure at all. It's about what you build after it happens. If Walt Disney had stopped after being told he had no imagination, or after his first company went bankrupt, or after losing Oswald, none of it would exist. Every no he heard just meant he hadn't found the right idea yet.
Exactly, my dear. Every failure Walt had wasn't a wall. It was a door he simply hadn't opened yet. And that, dear friends, is a true story for tonight. Next time someone tells you you don't have what it takes, remember the man who was told exactly that, and then built a mouse that the whole world would come to know.
Thanks for being with us tonight. We'll be back next time with another story. Tell us, do you know another real person whose failure led them to something great?
Good night, dear friends. Take your time.